pop in, say hi. If you've never come into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And as you come in, if you could just give me the heads up how the sound is going, because I do have the air conditioner blowing and I have the fan blowing behind me too. I went for a walk today just for a couple hours to get out of the house. I didn't intend to leave the house today, but I've been on such a great run of, I'd have to say, exercise in general, just getting out and about and mixing with other human beings. And it has been really, really good for me. And I've really enjoyed it. When I say good for me, it's because of my legs, right? I have this idea as we mature, our legs tend to give out. They don't tend to want to hold our weight like they used to. And I was a little worried when I first took my first couple of walks in a couple of months, right? And I was heavy into the lessons, and my own fault. But then again, I'm not sorry for that, because I couldn't imagine what I had missed out if I hadn't been accountable to the lessons, if I hadn't made that little bit of movement for myself, right? Because I was making a little bit of movement outside. Usually, when I'm outside and making that movement, it's for my emotional well being. So I'm going to have to say, I am not sorry again for sitting down and absorbing and taking in the lessons and, right, being on top of some of those topics that are really, really important to me. And I think that are really, really important to others. And, if I can figure out a way how to properly digest them, then, I think I could bring them to the table and I can do it in a way that would make them a little bit easier to digest. And I have to say, they were pretty easy to digest as it was, because I would have taken those walks outside. I would have exercised. I would have built those leg muscles up a lot sooner than I did. But I think probably it was the slowing down. It was that little bit of even keel that was coming about in my life. And I have no idea how I'm saying that, because if I look at my life in this moment, it doesn't seem like, in the physical form, any better than it was even 6 months ago, right? 2 months ago. But I feel good. I feel good. And I've been swimming, I'm going for walks, I'm right, being active in getting those things sorted out in my, not in my life, right? And technically, yeah, maybe in my life, but when I say my life, I'm thinking here and not here, the inside, and not so much the outside. The outside still looks just as, it's not hairy scary, but it's pretty messy. It is pretty messy, and my own fault, because again, I get to make those choices, and I chose to be present in what I was doing because I was comfortable. Like I said, if I was uncomfortable, I would have been out of them, and I would have been, right, taking in lessons, right? And I'm really happy for that. Sunday nights, we usually get together. I try to make the content a lot lighter. Usually, the people who come and hang out with me on Sunday nights, right, they chat more than I do. I suspect that they will be in shortly, unless I accidentally hit a a private or an unlisted live. Usually they are here even before I am, waiting for me to show up. So I'm looking at my comments here and I see nobody is here yet. We'll give it 5 minutes, and I understand if in 5 minutes somebody doesn't show up, then I know for sure that I've done something wrong in the setting up of my life. And I'll just go backwards and we'll start the live over again, right? or maybe in my own lesson, I'll just carry on, right? I'll carry on. If you pop into the live, pop in, say hi, let me know that the sound is okay, right? That, right, you're ready to go in the conversation. But again, like I said, I have been even keeled. I have been settling down, and I really have been enjoying building up that muscle again. I've been going for some really, really long walks. I walked 9 kilometers. I don't know how much that is in miles. Uh, oh, Owen's the first one in tonight. Hi, Owen. Hi, Owen. How are you doing tonight? It's awesome that you're here. I was going to say, you guys are usually here waiting for me even before I come in live. And I said I was just going to wait 5 minutes because if nobody showed up, I knew I got something wrong because my crew is pretty consistent on Sunday nights. That's what I could say. They are more consistent than I am. Oh, that's good to hear, Owen. That's really good to hear, right? That's really good to hear. Uh, I look at my city and I'm looking out my big picture window here. I don't like to have drapes on the window. I like to look out at the world when I'm doing my work or piddling around my house. But if you don't know, I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and we have got some wildfires going on. It's been really, really smoking. Oh, awesome. Dave showed up tonight too. Oh, awesome. Dave showed up. Dave showed up on my live show earlier in the week too, which was really nice to see. Yeah, I didn't know you were having problems with your legs. Your legs there, Dave. Oh my goodness. We all got issues somewheres, don't we? But it's true. We all sometimes we like to think that we could do it all, that we are the be alls to end alls, and we don't admit like when we have little tendencies. Like I didn't want to say, "Oh, Cindy, you're 63 years old now," because you used to be able to walk 10 miles, and now after a mile, you're already starting to get the aches and the pains in your legs. You just don't have the energy anymore, right? I accept that my age is eventually going to get me. It's going to pull me down, right, in some way. And that is just life, right? I am 63 years old. I don't know how old you are, Dave. But, as we get hit those certain ages, and you being a guy, you're all broken old men by the time you're 30 because of how hard you guys work and putting a roof over your head and your family's heads and your vacations homes at the lake and stuff like, right? It's really important for us to take care of ourselves so that we can be active. It would be absolutely amazing if I could ride my mountain bike and have my basket, right, attached, and I can ride off and just enjoy my senior years. But that would be dependent on how well I take care of myself. And sometimes we don't get a say in that, right? Sometimes life kicks us in the butt and we find ourselves struggling in different aspects, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, right? We all have handicaps, and that's for sure. But I am grateful that not quite yet. I am still pretty active, right? I say my sister says, "Where were you all day?" I says, "Oh, I went for a walk, and then I went for a swim, and then I went for another walk, and I've been doing not just one walk a day. Most days I've been doing two walks, a long walk, and then because I just anxious, right? Like I said, the everything seems to get even keeled, and I feel like I have a little bit of free space in my life, and so I have been getting excuse me, I have been getting out there, out of my, what is that word when you're little bit anxious, a little, not anxious, um agitated? It's not agitated either. You know, when you're sitting in a chair and you just antsy. That's the word I was looking for, antsy. When you feel like you're a little bit antsy, like you need to be doing something physical. And then that's when I go off and I do that second walk. Um, oh, it's well, we'll get into that in a couple of minutes, Dave. That trip to Ontario, I don't know how I'm going to manage it. I am optimistic. I haven't touched that money yet, but the thing is, things are falling behind in my household. And you guys know I would never let myself get in that situation ever again in my life. So, I will do the responsible thing no matter what. I'm going to take care of myself emotionally, mentally, and physically and financially, right? Because that's part of taking care of myself physically. It's not a dress, Dave. It's just a light top. It has been so hot. I think today it got up to 28 Celsius. It's cooling off now. It's 26 Celsius. I didn't build up as much of a sweat as I did yesterday. Yesterday I took the bus there. I went to the Pan Am pool. And if you don't know Canada, we have the Pan Am Games, and Winnipeg had the Pan Am Games here, I think in the late 70s. And then maybe it was in the 80s. I think it was in the late 70s, though, that they built an Olympic-sized pool in the city, and it's not too far from where I live. It'd take me maybe an hour and 15 minutes to walk there. But I took the bus there because I knew that I wanted to take a walk home. I'm just looking out at the sky with the birds flying by my window. I'm just always just looking for the pairs, right? The pairs of birds to walk by. I usually just get the big flocks, but the big flocks of birds are really lovely to watch, whether they're seagulls. These were sparrows. I think these were sparrows. I get the crows too. I didn't realize that the crows, they fly in those big groups too. I usually just see a crow sitting up in a tree or on a power line or something, but I don't normally see, right, the big flocks of crows. The bus station, they live in the rafters in the bus station, so there's like bird poop all over. I don't even know if they took that into consideration, because after they built the station for the transit system, they went up there and they put spikes all over the place so that the pigeons couldn't sit up there. They're finding ways to sit up there anyway. But when I went to take the bus to go to the pool the other day, they had the tanks on the little, golf cart kind of vehicles, and they were spraying down the sidewalks and the benches. And yeah, those pigeons really make a big mess. But yeah, I went for a walk. After I went for a couple of hours, I went for a swim, and I really burnt it off, got the exercise. And as much as I haven't been walking, right, that it took me some time to get back into that routine of comfortability in walking, that also it's the same idea with the swimming, because oh my goodness, my arms hurt me so bad. Not so much my legs, because I've been exercising the legs, but the muscles in my arms, doing those back strokes and the front strokes, butterfly strokes, right? When I was a kid, I had these talents that were never really nurtured by anybody. But I was diving off the diving boards. I was an amazing swimmer by the time I was 3 or 4 years old at the very latest. And I used to get caught all the time by the landlord of the complex, and he would drag me by the back of my shirt and take because the pool was in a separate building. You had to have keys for the pool. that he would take the keys away from me and he'd take me by the scruff of the neck and then he'd take me up to the door of the apartment and he would just lecture at my parents, right? About leaving me alone in the pools. And they just say, we don't leave her alone. She just takes the keys and she goes swimming on her own. But, I was a bit of a feral child, but I think my parents knew that I was a really good, right? That I must have been some kind of savant, what do you call those, water babies, because I really loved water. And I was diving off the diving boards, like I said, by 3 or 4 years old. And yeah, my parents would just say, okay, Cindy, and he'd hand me the keys. My dad would hand me the keys. Hang them up. Hang them up where you found them. And right, I'd hang them up where I find them. And then next time I wanted to go swimming, I would just take the keys and I'd go swimming again. The caretaker didn't always find me. Lots of times I got pretty good at finding the times when he was busy or something that he wasn't paying attention. Usually he would just come down to the pool when one of the other tenants would complain, oh, there's some little kid swimming around in the pool, and he always knew it was going to be me. And it was a big complex. This complex was like the projects, when you go to Brooklyn or something, they have those big projects, those big high rises. These weren't high rises, but they were a whole bunch of apartment blocks. They were probably 3 or 4 flights high, and it was a new complex in Port Moody. I think it was in Port Moody. It was a new city at that time, and my father just picked us all up when my nanny died, and we just moved out there, and we lived there for a couple of years. I do believe I think we actually lived there a couple of times, because I remember 2 different apartments in 2 different areas of that complex. But again, I was so young, right? I couldn't really trust my memory in that, but I do remember 2 separate apartment buildings. So I don't know if we moved into that complex twice on 2 separate occasions, or we just moved different apartments, because they were always building apartments in that area. I remember the gullies. It was like fairyland all the time. It was my favorite place to play. And again, like I said, me and my sisters, we were feral. My mother had just had my youngest sister, but me and my other 2 sisters, we used to go down to the gully all the time and pretend we were fairies, because there were little streams and creeks, and the grass was so green and the trees were so green, and it was just absolutely beautiful down there. I'm sure it's not like that anymore. I'm sure they landscaped it all and built more apartment buildings, or more part of that city, because now Port Moody and Port Coquitlam hadn't even been built yet. Port Moody came first, and then Port Coquitlam. Oh no, there were 3 of them. There was Port Moody, Port Coquitlam, and then Port Coquitlam. So there were 3, and we moved to Port Moody, and then the other 2 cities just got added on to it eventually. But oh my goodness, I remember, living in that area. It was the first time my parents caught me and my sisters smoking cigarettes. Me and my second eldest sister, Tracy, who was a year and a half younger than I was. And so we must have stayed there till I was probably maybe 5 years old or so. But we used to take our dad's cigarettes, and we'd just go, everybody smoked at that time, right? It was the cool thing to do. And we'd go hide in the bushes, and again, that caretaker found us and dragged us home. And oh boy, was my dad upset, because my dad spent his entire life trying to quit cigarettes. He had congenital heart disease. He wasn't supposed to smoke, but his doctor suggested it to him. In those days, that's what they did to help eliminate stress because of his heart. They thought it was going to be the stress that killed my dad. So they let him, they actually advised him to smoke cigarettes. but he was always trying to quit. He never made it more than a few days in the entire time that I knew my father. He lived to be 47 years old, and then the heart disease did get him. He went in for the same operation that my sister is going in this Friday. They gave her a new operation date, so she's going in on Friday for a quadruple heart bypass. She's so scared, you guys. Oh my goodness. The anxiety is going right through the roof, and she can't afford to have another cancellation because not because her heart can't take it, but maybe her heart can't take it because it's the stress. It's that roller coaster of being up and down and up and down. And so we got to get her through that system. We got to get her through that operation. I know she's going to be absolutely fine, that she's going to get a new lease on life, that right, God is going to wake her up to, right, something pretty amazing. Right now she's too scared to allow anything to come really into her life. That doesn't stop me from trying. She just thinks it's irritating. Oh, that's just Cindy. She's just irritating, right? Or she'll just say, Cindy, you're stressing me out. Don't talk about that stuff. Or, oh, Cindy, you're getting a little bit preachy. But I don't care. She's my sister. And you know what? She's come a long way in her own life. And she's gone through, and it started the same time when I woke up to some of these ideas. She didn't wake up into any ideas, but she woke up into the exact same symptoms mirrored to me almost, right? And yeah, she had a pretty good run of crashes. But I'm 100% certain that, when this is all said and done with, right? When she wakes up from that operation and knows that she got through it just fine, her whole life is going to change. Her whole life is going to just be absolutely like a ray of sunshine. I'm convinced of it. And, maybe at that point, right, she won't just say, oh, Cindy, you're irritating, or Cindy, you're a little bit preachy, right? That maybe she'll take some of these lessons that I learned that helped me out so much, that she might take them to heart. And I don't expect her to make the same run as I did. I moved a little bit different, but I know she really loved my mom. She's so like my mom was, right? Like maybe not in that anger, right? And if it was anger, she never showed it that way. But she had her own relationship with my mom, just like all of us did in that family, right? And I suspect because my mom loved Jesus, that my sister Tracy, she'll probably sway the Jesus route, right? Not to say that I never will. I am non-denominational. I suspect that's okay because I've been making that movement. And right, and at one day, Jesus might come up to me and shake my hand and say, "Hey, Cindy, nice to meet you." Right, and at that point, my own little anxiety attack. But sometimes we need to see that evidence. Sometimes we need to experience that for ourselves. But I'm so grateful that I found mindset. I'm so grateful that, mindset led the way for me and made me realize that what I was going through was not a spiritual experience. And if I want a spiritual or religious experience, that would be in my choice, right? And I understand. I'm a good person. I've always been a good person, a little bit naive, that's for sure. So I learned this week. Hey, Dave, you must have had a good giggle when you heard me say, "Oh, I don't know that platform." But Dave must have had such a good little giggle in that, and I'm thinking, "Oh, Cindy, you really are naive. You just, yeah." It was It was cute, and I'm okay with being naive that way. I really am, right? Because it just shows that there's no, I don't know what it shows. It just shows that little bit of innocence in me, I would guess. But I'm sure you had a little giggle on that one. But yeah, so what was I was yapping about? My dad. Oh, so Tracy having that operation. Yeah, so she's going to be absolutely just fine. Things work out the way they work out for a reason, and sometimes we don't see the clues. And I gotta say that's the truth, right? There are things in my life that have been in my life for quite a while, but I didn't make any reference connection to some of these things that were consistently in my life. I just thought, oh, this is a new interest in my life. And oh, I really love doing this. I'm so glad that I found this. And but not realizing that it was a part of the new me, right? It's part of the change in me. And as we change, our interests changed, right? Oh, oh. I had no idea what he was talking. I really didn't have any idea what he was yapping about. That's very kind of you to say, Dave. That's really kind of. But yeah, you guys don't ever feel bad if you, right? There's a reason you guys got the wrenches, right? There's a reason why you guys got the wrenches, and if you happen to see anything, that's inappropriate, then uh there you go. There you go, Dave. And if you see that stuff, just take it out, right? Just eliminate it, because this is not what my brand is all about, right? And I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. And if I know I feel uncomfortable when that happens, I know somebody else is going to feel uncomfortable. And I know those comments have been blocked. Try out your new wrench there, Dave. Say hi and let's see if your wrench is there. Dave's been with us for so long. I hope he doesn't mind. If you don't ever use the wrench, that's perfectly fine with me. But the other day you could have taken care of that situation, because I might not have even looked, right? There you go, Dave. Dave got the wrench, you guys. Dave's a moderator. He should have been a moderator a long time ago. But yeah, this way we take care of business that way. But this Friday, whew, it's going to be a busy day. I'll be at the hospital very early in the morning, and I probably won't get home until early evening, when the operation is over. And then for the next few days, I will be over at my. I'm okay. Well, let's get into that conversation, Dave. Let's get into that conversation, you guys. Right. I had the plan, and I had my sister's car for a week, and I had my campsites, my campgrounds all picked out. I have almost all the money, right, that I need to take that trip. It's a trip that I do for myself. I've been doing it for 20 years in some aspect, right? I've been going away on that trip, but I have to take care of myself, right? Emotionally, physically, uh, um, mentally, and financially, right? And you guys know how close I got to, right, losing the roof over my head. I actually did lose the roof over my head, but I was lucky enough to find a new roof just as fast as I lost the other one. And boy, did I spend a lot of time, you guys, right? In stressing and worrying about that. But if I hadn't stressed or worried about that, right, things would have just gone fine. I just would have went from one household to the next household. I didn't even lose my big picture window. I remember grumbling and complaining. Oh my goodness, I'm going to miss my big picture window. My big picture window is just as beautiful, right? It's different, right? I'm looking at downtown now. I'm looking at a lot of action because I live on a very busy street, and there's a convalescent home, a recovery home across the street. So the indigenous who live up north, right, when they have to fly into the city and they have to have operations and they have to stay in the city for their what do you call that, post-op checkup, that they stay in this complex that's across the street from me all the time. They got picnic tables out there. There's about 6 of them out there right now, and they stay there and while they're recuperating, and they're like little apartments because that building across the street, I just found out, and it looks like it physically, it looks like an old motel, but it's now like a little apartment complex, right? So they have a little cafeteria in there because I walk the back lane and I see the cafeteria in the back of the building. And then they have these little, what do you call these, kitchen apartments? And they've got about maybe 16 of them, right? Maybe 15 or 16 of them. And they have a nurse's station because a couple of times I had to run over because sometimes those taxi drivers, they just let people in wheelchairs and the sick people just out, and then they're just stuck on the sidewalk. So because I have the big picture window up, I see them, right? I'll give them a couple of minutes just to see who's going to come out and get them. But if I see nobody's coming out to get them or somebody's yelling for some help, I jump on the elevator, go downstairs, and I'll run across. So that's why I know there's a nurse's station in there, because I've taken people into the to be registered and in that complex. But it used to be a motel there. But yeah, they fly home after they've stayed there, after they've recovered. They usually stay there for a couple of weeks. I get to see the faces and the conversations, and right, they don't get to come into the city very often, so they take full advantage of it. And you remember what I said, that these fire engines and paramedics, they come to my building and they come to this building across the street all the time, at least once a day. So there are issues, but it's in the excitement of being in the big city that they get themselves in these little issues. And I remember when I was young too. It's not because they're indigenous, right? It's just because they live up north and they don't get to go to nightclubs and bars, and right, that they don't get to go out and socialize with lots of people, because we have lots of indigenous in this city, right? They just don't come in from up north. They're actually the citizens of this city. So obviously it's not something they get to do all the time, especially if they come in with their families and stuff. So maybe the person who's sick or recovering stays in their room, but the rest of the family are looking for things to do, right? So yeah, it's like a vacation, right? Even though it's meant for recovery, it's like a vacation. But you should see some of these vehicles that come to pick them up. Oh my goodness, big Yukons, because there's lots of money, right? Like there's lots of money in those communities. They lease land for agriculture, for hunting, for lodges, for mining. Yeah, so they have lots of money, and they're very fair within their communities. They don't just use the money to build houses, but they'll give the money to the families, and they all have nice cars and nice homes, and they do quite well for themselves in all honesty. But once they come into the city, that's when they find that they run into a little bit of trouble, right? Because, well, there's still that what do you call that? It's it is prejudice, but they call it something else these days, right? We're tolerant now, but every once in a while they're just not treated with respect the way, right? Somebody who is even a different nationality, even other nationalities, because they get picked on a little bit, right? Because of the racism, they double down and they treat the indigenous very bad. I think that's just the worst thing ever, when you pass down what's passed down to you. It's cruel. I had a lot of that done in my life, right? And just people being in bad moods, and they just pass it down to whoever. But it rings a little bit different when you're a minority, right? And when you're a minority and you're doing that to a minority that you consider to be less of a minority, and they're Canadians, right? Our indigenous, our citizens, our neighbors, are part of our community, and people who are coming from another country, and right, I there are a few of these nationalities that are really, really bad, you know, to treat people. And I'm thinking, you know what? Like, what you get, it doesn't mean that you can go off and do that to somebody else and make somebody feel beneath you, right? Because again, as much as I understand, that's a fellow Canadian and part of our community, right? Our neighborhood. That you know what? That needs to be treated with respect, and it's not always that way. You guys, today we'll get back to that conversation, Dave. Today I had to Google what was going on with Gaza and Israel. Yesterday, when I went for a walk, I went to go swimming, and when I went to cross the street, I could hear drums and speakerphones and stuff going on. We have an area. It's called Crazy Corner because of the way it's set up. It's an intersection, but it's got like one, two, three, four, five, six or seven different roads connecting. So they call it Crazy Corner. Recently, they've been kind of trying to clean up the busyness of that corner by redirecting buses and stuff. So now we're walking to catch buses, and right, I go to the bus station now rather than Crazy Corner. But we should. They built those bus stations for a reason, and it's much faster. But when I was walking, I crossed the street, I saw hundreds of people with sticks and signs. I don't know if it was something global that all the cities went to the streets, but today I had to Google because I had no idea what was going on in Gaza. I had no idea that people were in refugee camps and they were starving. And you guys know it takes all kinds to make the world. You know that's part of my mission statements. And I do not like to see people treated by anybody, right? I don't like to see anybody. It doesn't matter what nationality you are, what political ideas that you have, what cultural ideas, and what religion you are. It doesn't matter to me. Everybody has the right to be treated with respect. So I'm walking across the road and they're shouting at me and they're hitting their drums and whistling, and they're on these speaker phones and they're waving their sticks with the big signs. And the signs were so targeted, like they were so, I got the idea, starvation, because a lot of those signs said things, you're starving, and they were blaming it on Israel and Jerusalem, and I'm thinking, aren't these like Jesus's cities? Aren't these very religious Christian cities? Right? geology was never my big thing, right? I learned the geology because I love archaeology and I love, right, to be able to say, well, they found this in Spain or they found this in Egypt, right? They found this in Venezuela. Like I like to be able to say that, but I don't know why I'm not more familiar with the Middle East, right? Um, but I'm not. So today I got up and yesterday I made a mental note to Google what was going on. I didn't want to watch videos and stuff because of the violence, and I don't want to see starving children and stuff. And but I did. When I Googled it, the first thing came up was the picture on the front of a newspaper of a mother holding a child that was like my baby fingers, that the bones in the legs and in the arms. I was just, oh, it was just so awful. And so I did a little bit of history search and I asked Google to fill me in a little bit on what was happening and why it was happening. And yeah, I still didn't get it, right? I still didn't get it because it's just the way we shuffle people around and say, you get to live here and you need to be confined here. And this is our land. This is our country. And in truth, I don't know if it's just me, but my family was nomads. Yes, I'm a Canadian, but I'm sure at one point in my existence, right, and we're talking lifetimes, that maybe I was Hindu or I was Tibetan or I was Greek Orthodox or Russian Orthodox or some of these Oriental religions, right? Like the dragon gods and stuff. Like, right? I believe at some point that I would have been in these religions and maybe very religious myself because, there's a lot of religion. Like we have archbishops and bishops. One of my ancestors was an archbishop of Canterbury. He was one of the most important people in England in a time that was really messed up. They were recovering from great wars and everything. I think it was the time of Charles II was one of them, and he was anointed by Charles II, and then he was transferred to uh, another country. I think he was transferred to, well, Canterbury, where that England, I would think, and he became the Archbishop of Canterbury. I can't remember his name. I'll find that out and I'll let you know. But there are lots of bishops and lots of archbishops in my family background. So I know that Christianity or Catholic or Protestant, that's really, really, really heavy in my family tree on my mother's side. On my father's side, I can't say for sure. I know there's spirituality there because my dad was a spiritual person. I know my grandmother also was a spiritual person. But other than that, I wish I had taken more interest in my family background. I just was not interested. I wasn't interested in that way. Right. And it's funny because that's history, isn't it? And I love history. I love archaeology, but I guess I was targeting the archaeology part of it and not the anthropology, the social anthropology of archaeology, right? And if I had understand that they were branches in archaeology, I wouldn't have grown up into my adulthood saying, I always wanted to be an archaeologist. No, I wanted to be a field anthropologist specializing in archaeology. That's what I really wanted to be. And in my next lifetime, maybe I will, right? Because now that I understand what I truly wanted to be, because how people worked, how people ticked, how people lived. How do we get from there to here, right? And those are the kind of questions and those are the kind of topics that I like, but you would have thought, right? I knew there were lots of religious and bishops and stuff. Like right, I don't even know what a bishop is, but right, when you hear the Pope and stuff, I think it's somebody who's just underneath the Pope. This is what I'm thinking anyway. Um, but but yeah, right. I would have delved into it a little bit heavier if I had, I don't know what, because I did have access to our family tree. Our family tree goes all the way back to the 14th century. And my mother had it. It was like a big map, but it was as big, and this is the truth. It was as big as my picture window here. It was, I'd have to say, it was like 5 feet, 6 feet, even by 8 feet. It was huge, and it was on homemade paper, and it folded out like it was like this big when it was all folded up. When my mother passed away and we went through all her things, my youngest sister accidentally threw it away, thinking that it was just paper junk, and she threw it away. All we have is a little bit of reference, like they where they give names and dates, and that paper with the staple in it must have been a few pages. I gave that to my nephew, and he researched it all. He was actually the one who came down and pointed out this archbishop in our history. He says, "Oh yeah," pointed at the picture, and he says, "That's one of our relatives." And I'm like, "What?" I think he was actually Irish. He was actually Irish, but at that time, as I don't know, part of the peace treaties or whatever they did, like he ended up being right, the Archbishop, Canterbury Archbishop or something like that. I'm not gonna say for sure. I have to do a little bit of research, and when I do, I'll come back and tell you the story and that. And I don't even know why I came up with that story. It was relevant. Oh, it was about the religion in my family. I don't move that way. I move a little bit closer to my father's side, but like I said, right, it just takes one experience. That one experience that I expect and I am optimistic that my sister is going to have when she successfully comes out of that operation on Friday. So if you guys want to give her another good word, right? Some good cheer in your prayers, that would be much appreciated for sure. Okay. Um yeah, okay, so but back to the trip in September. I have no idea how I'm going to do it. My other sister, like I was going to give my Alice some money because I'd be taking her new car with me, and I fixed my pop-up tent and everything, so it's all ready to go. All my camp gear, it's all ready to go. Right? I even have my campsites and my campgrounds I want to visit, and that's where I make those outdoor explores, right? And I am a Google guide, and right, today was it today? Oh, yesterday when I went for walk for a coffee, I went for a couple of walks yesterday and to swim. and and when I was walking, I says, "Well, Cindy, if you don't get to go on your trip on September, I mean, you could hop on a bus and go and visit city parks and make little." I almost wanted to cry. Truthfully, it just broke my heart to even think about it. And so I'm just optimistically, right? Something will come across my path. I believe, right? I'm not saying it's not going to happen, right? I'm doing everything I possibly can. I just don't see how it's going to happen. But I believe and I'm optimistic that it will. I really am. And yeah, I have 4 great parks picked out uh, for the trip, and I could do a half a job and just sprinkle the money around a little bit and leave a little chunk and maybe go away for a few days. But you guys know that's not how I I work. I like the road trips. I want the whole package, and I'm not crying the blues saying if I can't have it, I don't want anything at all, right? Anything is better than nothing. But right, I am stubborn and I am optimistic and in the lessons along the way, right? Right? I've been taught and it's been drilled into me, and it just sits there that I believe somehow it's going to work out. Another solution I thought is because my sister Tracy is recovering, that maybe she would let me take her car at no charge. And then I can manage it because all I would need then is the gas money and the money for my camping spots. And right. And at that time, I can put bigger chunks on my bills, right? And make sure that I'm okay when I'm back. I can't be irresponsible, you guys. I can't go on a trip like that and then have that where I wouldn't even enjoy myself. I wouldn't even enjoy myself because I know when I came home that I spent that money that should have gone towards something else, right? Putting that roof over my head, making sure that I'm okay, right? And you guys know I never ever want to get myself in that situation that I got in, right? That half a dozen years I worked too hard and I promised myself that I wouldn't allow that to happen. So, in that contemplation, I have been thinking about going back to work, right? And right, maybe just a couple of days of work and just carry on with what I'm doing. And then you never know what hits. Just needs one client, and then I'm back in the red. Is that what you call it? Back in the red or black in the black? Back in the black. Andrew, what is it? If I accomplish something, am I back in the black or am I back in the red? I think it's back in the. I don't know. Andrew will let me know. He's smart. Or one of you guys, you're all smart. One of you guys just shout it out and let me know. Yeah, so that's where I stand right now. Right? The plan is still to leave on the 14th of September and come back on the 22nd of September, and then right, take my sister's car back to her on the 23rd. So I have 8 days, 2 days in each campground, come home, unload my gear, crash, because it's the only time that I do take naps is when I go off on these camping trips that I go on when I hit on the road. But you know what? It is what it is. Something will come across my path. Things work out for me all the time, right? All the time. All the time. Yesterday, right? I'm thinking, oh my goodness, right? I shouldn't buy a cup of coffee at the coffee shop because that could be a couple of tomatoes or a head of lettuce. I'm thinking, right? And then I get a message, right? Instantly, I get a message saying, "Is this still available?" And what I had is, do you guys remember the Black Panther ornaments, ceramic ornaments? And there usually were like 3 or 4 of them, all different sizes. They were really popular in the 60s and 70s. Well, what I had was not the Panthers, but I had a mallard duck lamp, and I picked it up. I think it was maybe after my discount. I got it for maybe $5. I might have even paid full price for it because I just took it off the shelf as soon as it hit the shelf. And I sold it for almost $80. And that lady messaged me yesterday, and she says, "Oh, when will you be home?" I says, "Well, I'm on my way walking home right now, but it's probably going to be an hour or an hour and a half before I get home." And I didn't think she would message me back. And she messaged me back. She says, "Okay, I'm on my way." And I went, "Oh my goodness," right? And she messaged me, said, "I'm here." I looked at my phone, "I'm here." And I went, "Oh my goodness, she's even here." And I ran downstairs with the ceramic duck, and I went to the window of her car. And she goes, "Oh, I love it." She was so excited. It was in perfect shape, no chips. The color was amazing. The lamp worked beautifully. And she was so excited for it. So I just opened up the door and I put it on her front seat in the passenger side and covered up with a couple of hats or pieces of clothes that she had sitting there. And she was so thrilled. She pulled the money out of her little change purse and she gave it to me. I walked back into my apartment block because everybody is out there. It's like Grand Central Station. I got benches out there and everybody sees that I'm doing transactions out there, right? And I'm counting the money as I'm walking back to the apartment. I'm going, oh my goodness, I just paid $5 for that. I walked in the apartment block and I went out the back door and up the back lane because, right, I didn't want them to see me all running to the grocery store. And I went to the grocery store and I got, oh my goodness, right? I got groceries and cleaners and things that I was running low of. I didn't buy the coffee because, oh my goodness, you guys, we're getting slaughtered here with the tariffs. A tin of coffee, over $30 now. They're over $30, but they slowly are increasing them so we don't get into panic mode. They say they're going to be like $40 by the end of the month with the tariffs, right? It's not like Canada can make its own coffee. I hope these big coffee companies in their warehouses, they really stacked a lot of bags of coffee beans and stuff to roast. But I suspect the way the pricing of the coffee is, there's so much missing off. We lost the Burke's pickles. It's an American product. We lost our pickles. We got Bix pickles. Yeah, so we're losing. So once the Bix pickles are all sold out, we're not going to have any Bix pickles. They're just not going to order it in. They want to do everything Canadian. Right now it's easy because, right, it's vegetable season. They can make pickles. I'm sure French's is going to pick up a lot of the slack and some of the stuff that comes from the States. There are lots of big food manufacturers and production here in Canada, but right, there's a lot of empty spots on the shelves. Dole pineapple, oh my good, everything is so expensive, so expensive. People are really gonna really start struggling when it comes to putting groceries in the cupboards. I don't know what we're going to do, right? People who've got gardens, smartest thing, get everything canned up, make a pantry in the basement, keep things cool, and yeah, we will survive, right? I have lots of books here on roots and stuff like this. When I go out for my walks, I'm always walking up and down. I like back alleys. I go up and down back alleys and I look along the roads where there used to be houses and there's parks because I'm looking for rhubarb, right? I'm looking for rhubarb. I love rhubarb, and that's something I can chop and wash and throw in the freezer. And it's good for you too, right? The rhubarb. But I don't think it's quite rhubarb season right now. I got some off of my niece when we had our garage sale. I got some off my niece and out of her garden, but it was still green. But I knew I wasn't going to be up at her house. I was just kind of hoping that maybe it would turn a little pinky on the kitchen counter. So I just brought it home. I cleaned it, clipped the ends of them, and then I put them in like they were flowers into a big jug of water. They stayed crispy for a couple of days, but then I worried that they were going to go limpy. So what I did is I stewed it all, and it was green. The stew was green, but I added sugar to it, and I added a little bit of red food coloring to it, and it was amazing, you guys. It was so good. I love stewed rhubarb, but ever since I've been looking for the rhubarb, like I said, but yeah, I haven't been able to find any. I bumped into somebody on the elevator and they kind of gave me a tip down at the Forks, and I'm planning on going to the Forks tomorrow And it's really neat, you guys. I want to show you something. I don't know why I thought of it when I got this dress. I bought this dress a couple of years ago. I'm going to wear this down at the Forks tomorrow. It's Labor Day here in Canada. It's important. It's one day where everybody gets it off from work. So this is one of my favorite. I thought it was East Indian, this dress. And if you come up close, you can see how beautiful it is. It's all crystals and embroidery. And I thought, because I haven't worn it this year, and the design goes all the way down to the bottom of the dress. And it's so beautiful and it looks so good on me. Um, and I thought it was East Indian, right? I thought it was an East Indian dress. But I wanted to translate the label because you can see it's in a language there that isn't, it's not Canadian, right? You can see it's in a language. So I thought I could use my Google Lens and then I could translate it. And then it would tell me what language it was. And then I would know where the dress comes from. Well, you guys, you will have no idea. Take a wild guess. Take a wild guess what nationality this dress is. Just take a wild guess where you think is, when you're looking at the design, where you think it might be from. But yeah, it's so beautiful. I mean, the beadwork and the embroidery, it's a little bit heavy, but it's so beautiful. And I get compliments on it every time I wear it. The color's amazing. Looks so good on me. No, Andrew, you're wrong on that. I don't think anybody would be able to guess where this dress is from. I don't even think if you could see the language on the tag, even, right, where it's from. But I Google lensed it, and the dress is Egyptian, you guys. It's from Egypt. I had no idea. I was so excited because you guys know I love Egypt. So when people ask me to, and they will, they'll ask me where the dress is from, right? I'll be able to tell them that it's Egyptian, right? And I have, I have another one. I think that one might be from Turkey or Iran. Um, but yeah, this one is so beautiful. So tomorrow I thought I would spend the afternoon. I would spend the afternoon in I don't know. Oh, I would spend the afternoon at the Forks tomorrow and just have a really nice day. Kind of like a little holiday for myself. Oh, that was a good one too, because people in Thailand have dresses like this too. It was just from the design. Yeah, that's actually a really good guess there, because it does have that look to it, doesn't it? But yeah, so I've had it in the bag. I haven't even worn it once this year, and I think last year I wore it 2 or 3 times. It's so beautiful. I just wore it 2 or 3 times out and about. I did want to wear it to work, but this calls for sandals, right? I have a little bit of I have a beautiful pair of sandals. They're actually made in Jerusalem, with cork heels on them. They're like the Jesus sandals, and they're worth a lot of money. I think they were worth over $200. These shoes, and I only got them for like $5 or something at my job, and they were brand new. They weren't even worn before, right? But I couldn't wear sandals at work. I had to keep my toes. I had to keep my toes covered. So I'm just gonna throw that on my bed there. I had to keep my toes covered at work, so I kept my eyes open for a proper pair of shoes for that dress. But I never came across the proper pair of shoes for that dress besides my sandals. But I'm going to the Forks, and if you guys don't know, Forks is a meeting place of two rivers, the Assiniboine River and the Red River that comes up from North Dakota. It's part of the Mississippi line, right? It's one of those trail rivers. And you would never know it that the river runs up to us, right? Our water doesn't run down, right? The Red River doesn't run down into the States, right? The Red River actually comes up from the States into Manitoba. So I guess I don't know. It's just the way it flows. I'm not a geologist like I said, so I don't really have much idea on that, right? Wearable art. Aw, thank you, Andrew. Aw, thank you. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm just going to I'm going to walk there. I always walk there. But I'm going to walk along the river and just enjoy the afternoon. Hopefully it's not too hot tomorrow. It was hot today, but it was manageable. It was a lot hotter yesterday in my mind because I had to walk a long ways from the swimming pool to get home. And after swimming all afternoon, I was tired already when I started walking home. But I just walked home, and I just paced myself, and I just walked down the back alleys and stopped and look at people's backyards and their garden furniture and the way they did their gardens, and looked for rhubarb. Right? And had a cup of coffee. I stopped off at the coffee shop, and like I said, right, I wasn't too sure whether I could buy myself a cup of coffee, but when that lady said she was when I saw another bird just fly by my window. When she said she was going to come by for that ceramic lamp that I had, I got pretty pumped, and I splurged that money. I would have been out that money. I would have been hurting, right? That would have been a head of lettuce, right? And just things like that always work out for me. Always work out for me. Today I went for another walk. Like I said, I went for another walk, and I just wanted to get a small container of coffee because, like I said, coffee is like $30 for those larger containers of coffee. And a lot of those brands, like the tariffs are so high that they're going to be like $40 if anything goes on sale, right? The next little batch of money I get, I'm going to buy a few tins and just put them away. Just put them away because yeah, things are going to get a little bit tight, a little bit tough, I do believe. Until at the very least we can adjust the wages, or the government can come up with a little bit of a rebate plan for the citizens of the country, because right, the government is not I hate to use the word stupid. They're not stupid, right? They know that their citizens are going to struggle if it gets much higher than it already is. The tariffs are hurting us a little bit, but the government seems to think that maybe it'll be, oh, maybe not the government. It was the guy from Shark Tank. What's his name? Um, the guy with the shiny head. Um, I really like him too. I love his mindset. Uh, but yeah, but I'm just waiting to see if anybody knows his name. Shark Tank, where you guys get that Shark Tank in the States, where these great big millionaires and billionaires, they let entrepreneurs go in front of them with their product, and they get to pitch, trying to raise money for their companies and their businesses. Um, and yeah, oh my goodness, it's right on the tip of my tongue too. I can't remember who it is, but in any case, I don't even know why I was going to talk about him anyway. Only because, oh yeah, he seems to think that we're going to be okay, that it's actually going to be beneficial to this country. We're doing a lot of that. made in Canada at the grocery store. Beside the price tag of everything, it's got a little Canadian flag beside it, everything, just to show that everything is Canadian. But you can't really trust that at all because, Burger King is American. And there was a great big sign out of the in front of the Burger King as I walked by it saying, I'm a Canadian franchise owner, right? Trying to drill the fact. I am an owner operator, Canadian owner operator of Burger King. But you're still owned by the states, right? But maybe it's just not so they don't get the backlash, that they don't lose their sales. Everybody is trying to come up with a sale here and there, but sales are pretty expensive. Yeah, sales are pretty expensive. Yeah, even when I go to the coffee shop for a cup of coffee, like right now, you can get a extra large coffee at McDonald's. They make really good coffee. But $2, that's a really decent price. You don't get your free refills anymore, but you can get a cup of coffee, a nice big one too, for $2. But I suspect with the coffee tins being $40, that right for a keg of coffee, I think it's a keg of coffee. Yeah, a keg of coffee, that it's going to be really expensive. They'll probably a cup of coffee in a restaurant is going to double for sure. Yeah. Um. Yeah, that was a really good. That was a really good dress. That was a really good guess, Andrew, about the dress. I like that, the Turkish, but that idea of Thailand too, because of Thailand, they love the beadwork, don't they? They love the sparkly, and they do a lot of embroidery and stuff. But yeah, I was so surprised. I was so pleased too, because you guys know I love Egypt. And when people ask me all the time, I said it was a Hindi dress. That's what I said. I says, "Oh, it's a Hindi dress." It wasn't a Hindi dress. It was an Egyptian dress. I don't know what kind of dress it is. I can't imagine that it was everyday wear, right? Maybe it was for temple, or maybe, right, maybe for wedding, or maybe for dress up wear. I don't know. But maybe I'll meet somebody who's Egyptian while I'm wearing the dress, and they can let me know what the dress was. I'm sure it was some kind of formal wear for sure. Um, Dave says, speaking of walks, I must bring my 1-year-old Sheltie, Sir Isaac Brock, for his last walk night all. Oh, have a good night, Dave. And yes, sir, Isaac Brock is a real name from the War of 1812. And the host is Dave, you're a sweetheart. Kevin O'Leary, that's who I was talking about. The guy who says that we're going to be okay. He's like a billionaire or something, right? So he's got lots of money, but super smart too. And if he says something like that, I would trust that that information is pretty bang on. But yeah, Sir Isaac Brock, yeah, he was killed, wasn't he? He was killed in the Battle of 1812 when Laura Secord came up and said that the Americans are coming, the Americans are coming. The one time that the Americans decided they were going to conquer Canada, right? And isn't it strange? It still wasn't until 1951 that we officially put up the Canadian and the American border. Isn't that neat? 1951. That's pretty late for right, those the boundaries between the two countries to be put up. Yeah, that's pretty late. Was it pretty good though that he knew I was talking about Kevin O'Leary? Yeah. I see him in posts sometimes on Instagram, and he wears these pajamas all the time, like these two-piece pajama sets. But you can tell that this is his life, right? Because I think he actually retired. Kevin O'Leary retired which is amazing, so that he can enjoy his retirement. I think that's pretty amazing. But I guess when you're a billionaire that you can do stuff like that. But he dabbles a little bit in business and politics. He's an entrepreneur, self-made man for sure. Yeah. But I lost track there where I was yapping about. But yeah, everything is going good. Everything is going really good. And I'm not worrying about it. Things work out for me all the time, and I'm not going to look in too far in the future because I know everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to work out the way it's going supposed to work out. It's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. It might even work out even better than I hoped. Right? Maybe it will be a 2 or 3 week vacation, right? But that's the content for my outdoor explorers, you guys. And it's going to be a couple of decades that I haven't gone on a trip, if I miss this year. But I'll be okay with that because, right, I'll bring up the pride in my responsibility and in my accountability, right? I will just pep talk myself, and I'll just make sure that that never happens again. And I will make next year's holiday even better. And I will find content, right? Right? I've got lots of footage. We'll go back and rehash, not redo them, but we'll splice them together. And because I'm a different person now and a lot more open, because you guys know how shy I was, like, it took me a year to even come in front of the camera, that I can, right? I can leave some of the stuff in there, some of that silly stuff that Cindy would just pop out of her mouth, but right? Got to put music over that, or I wasn't very good with filming, and I didn't understand how to put music over the wind and over the traffic or over the conversations. So lots of times I edited that video out, and some of those most amazing parts of my explores didn't even make it into the footage. Now I know how to edit a little bit better, that I can leave that footage on and I can voice over and tell a little story, or I could put the music in there and take the sound right out. Right? I remember a couple of my videos I thought I absolutely destroyed because it was so windy. I live in the prairie, so of course it's really, really windy, and that not having a proper microphone, that really caused a lot of havoc in my footage, especially when I was first starting out in those outdoor explorers. If you want to see some of those videos, if you've never popped into my live before, right? I explore the inside and the outside. When I come in and do my lives, a lot of it is in the inside and rehashing the outside, but lots of it is in those outdoor explorers. So if you go to my main channel page, you could see I was an urban explorer. I explored abandoned houses, abandoned farms, abandoned churches, abandoned one-room schoolhouses. And yeah, a lot of those videos, I need to go into those too. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. If I don't go on that trip, you guys, right? I will be on my footage. I've got so many memory cards. I've got so many USB, right? Videos stored on USBs. I got lots of video in my Google Photos being stored in the cloud, right? Like so I'm not worried about not being able to make videos for you guys, and you guys know I will. They might even being a little bit more entertaining. We'll be able to rehash the person that I was then and the person that I am now, right? And that might even be interesting. So I'm not at a loss for that. And that actually, just saying that and recognizing that and realizing that right now makes me feel a little bit better, because the biggest disappointment is disappointing you guys, right? Being empathic, being highly sensitive. It's the last thing I want to do is to disappoint you guys. But I have to be accountable to myself. Number one priority is to show myself that I do matter, and I have to make sure that roof is over my head, that my bills are paid. Priority number one, and everything else is sprinkles and popcorn and cotton candy, right? But having that footage, I'll create something magnificent. Right? Couple of nice long videos. You guys know I have lots of content. I don't get rid of anything, right? Unless I've destroyed a memory card. I've done a few times I've done that, and I've lost footage on my memory cards. I've even lost footage in my Google Photos because I thought it would make a difference by deleting to make some space in my storage. But once it's been uploaded to my Google Photos, it's already got the storage. So taking it off is not going to do anything except make it so I lose my videos and my adventures. And so I feel a little bit but that's part of the learning process, isn't it? It's only known until you know it. And I didn't know it at the time. And at the time was just last year too. That's when I did that, not realizing that I had to dump all my footage that was already on my phone, right? And it wasn't storage in my Google, but I went and put an extra 200 GBs, right, gigabytes of storage in my Google Photos when I came home, just to make sure that I didn't lose any more of my footage. But really all I needed to do was, right, delete it from my phone because it was already uploaded to my Google footage, and it wouldn't have our Google storage, and it wouldn't have made a difference at all, right? And I deleted so many, right? I bought my sister a big bouquet of flowers, because she's the one that holds on to the money. She makes sure that I'm responsible and saves up money for my trip, right? And you know, when I went camping and picked up my Jeep, and I took it and I wanted her to see my setup. I had a big bouquet of flowers on the back seat. She goes, "Oh, Cindy, who are those for?" And I pulled them out and I says, "They're for you, Alice," right? None of this would be happening without my sister Alice, right? My sisters are absolutely amazing. I just wish I was just as good with money as they are. But she made it possible. She was good with the money for me, right? But like I said, even right now, I got the money to go on the trip. But if I go on this trip, I'm being irresponsible to myself, aren't I? I'm not taking care of myself, because it's kind of like I'm rewarding myself, but putting myself in a dire situation where, right, I have no utilities, I don't have the internet, I can't come in live and hang out with you guys. Like, it would just be an awful situation. So we're just going to play it by ear and just trust and believe that everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to work out, or work out even better, right? So I'm optimistic in that. Oh, excuse me. But isn't that a name? Like, does he call his dog, right, and say, "Sir Isaac Brock, come and get your dinner," or "Sir Isaac Brock, do you want to come go for a walk?" or "Sir Isaac Brock, time to come home," right? Or does he have short little nicknames? I'll have to ask him next time I talk to Dave online. Yeah, I'm glad. He should have had that wrench a long time ago. But yeah, he came into my live show earlier in the week, and another follower of mine follows my content, but I guess he's not really on point when it comes to the values of my channel and the way we interact and something. So yeah, he said something that was inappropriate, and yeah, I had to shut him down. But Dave could have shut him down because, right, I'm usually, when I'm in that flow, especially in my Monday to Friday podcast, it's heavy content, I usually just let it spew, and it just comes out of me. And it's really hard for me to get back on track when I come into the comments on that night. To this show is different because this is Chatters Live, and I'm part of this community too, right? So I have to read the comments, but I have the privilege is I don't have to write it in the comments. I could just reply in the podcast or in the live show myself, right? But he caught it. And then after my live show, he sent me a message to explain, right, what happened. And I went, oh my goodness. And I felt really silly. I was a little bit embarrassed by it because I really didn't understand what the conversation was all about. And he explained it to me, and I went, oh my goodness, really? And I thought, oh, Cindy, you're just so naive sometimes, right? But yeah, it was really sweet of him to say that he doesn't think that I'm naive, that it might have been something that anybody might have slipped into it. But yeah, you guys, I trust that if there's something that is inappropriate or somebody is mean to somebody in the comments or something, that somebody will say something, somebody will, right, take the comment out at the very least, or send it to me for a review. But if you send it to me for a review, quite often I won't see that either because, right, I'm in the flow. But in this show I would. In this show I would, because I tried to catch all the comments. Yeah, I was in here for about 2 minutes yapping away, and I was a little bit nervous that I had set up my live show tonight differently because you guys are usually here before I'm here. And I guess maybe I came in on time and I was here for a couple of minutes, and then I said, oh, well, if nobody shows up, well, maybe I'll just end the live and I'll come back in live, because I'm sure I would have set it up properly because these guys never miss my live. And then next thing you know, Owen walked in, and then Owen walked in, Dave came in, and Andrew came in, and everything was good again. Yeah. But yeah, that was pretty neat. Yeah, he knew I was Kevin O'Leary. Do you guys know who Kevin O'Leary is, you guys, in the States? He's pretty well known up here in Canada. I think he's from Ontario himself. He's from Toronto or something. But I'm sure he travels all over the world because why? Because he can do that, right? One day, maybe Cindy will. Wouldn't that be neat, you guys? Right? If I could take you to Egypt and you guys could see me in my dress from Egypt. Yeah, I was pretty excited when I saw that dress is from Egypt. And I am going to be going down to the Forks. I'm going to be spending the afternoon down there tomorrow at the very least. I might stay for the fireworks. I think they actually put on fireworks on Labor Day. But I don't know. We'll see when we get down there. You guys, 9 o'clock. I went for a short walk. I think I'm going to make myself. Oh, I don't want. Oh, I wanted to show you. I said I wasn't going to pick up any more earthenware, but look at those dragonflies, you guys. They're so beautiful. Dragonflies are my favorite insect. I'm not a big insect fan. I don't hate the insects, but I'm not a big fan of them. But the dragonflies, I love the dragonflies. I've always loved the dragonflies, right? They land on me. They're like little butterflies when they land. They don't bite chunks out of you or anything like big spider. Uh, what do you call it? Jumping spider. I had a jumping spider on me one time when I went out into the field. And if I make that video, I'll splice that in too. And it was so weird. The spider was so huge. It was like two of my thumbs together. That's how big it was. But it was furry. It was like a furry bug, and it had these great big eyes on it. When I Googled it when I got home, it turned out they're called jumping spiders, and they're supposed to be pretty common spiders. But I was so fascinated with it. It was sitting on my arm, and I stared at it for, oh my goodness, 5 minutes, but I was in the middle of making a video for you guys, right? And I stared at it for 5 minutes, just fascinated. I'd never seen a spider with fur besides the tarantulas, but I never even saw that one, except maybe at the zoo or in, they have a terrarium at the zoo and they have spiders, but, or probably just in videos, like in documentaries and picture books and stuff that I knew tarantulas had fur on them. But yeah, this looked like a tarantula, but it was also like a tan brown, like right? And supposedly jumping spiders, they come in all different colors and they have patterning like cats on them. And yeah, I found it interesting. But what I was going to say about the jumping spider is that I stared at it for 5 minutes and then it just jumped off of me. Like it jumped so fast, I didn't know it was a jumping spider. But it makes sense now that right, when I saw the documentary and I read a little bit about it and I went, oh my goodness, that's why that thing just went, because it hopped like it was a cricket off of me. But when I looked at my arm, it had taken a big chunk out of my arm, about this, well, maybe about the half the size of my baby thumbnail, right? And it actually bit a chunk of meat off of my arm. I didn't even feel it either, even after it jumped off of me and I saw that it had bitten me. Right? It did. They must have put venom or anesthesia when they bite into things to make it so that you go limp or something there. I don't know, but I never felt the bite, and I was super fascinated. I was super excited to get home and do a little bit of googling. Okay, you guys, that's going to be my live show tonight. Sunday, I'll fill you in on how the operation went with my sister Tracy. This is the biggest thing my sister has ever gone through, and probably the biggest thing that has happened within our family. I mean, my mother passed away, but it was pretty fast and pretty uneventful when she passed away. But this has been going on a long time. My sisters mean everything to me, and yeah, right. Everything's going to be good. I am 100% positive, but it's going to be a stressful, busy kind of week for us, and but we're going to be absolutely fine. We'll give you the heads up on everything, how it all went. If I don't show up Sunday, you guys will know that something didn't go so well. That would be the only reason I didn't show up Sunday. Okay, you guys. That's it for tonight. We'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody, for popping in.